Hey everyone, I'm Melissa from Knitting the Stash, and this is episode 93 in the series. Welcome, and welcome to my co-host, Belle the Bunny. Welcome. Hi, it's nice to see you. Oh wait, I was supposed to do it with the other side. I'm a terrible ventriloquist, so anyway, this is Belle the Bunny. She's going to be part of a segment on this episode, and I also have another co-host coming on because Spencer is going to spend some time with us talking about process versus product because the prison bus has left the building. Yes, for those of you who follow both of us on YouTube, you know that my husband Spencer has been working on a prison bus for the last, 3-4 years now, and the bus has left the building finally. So this episode is kind of Bunnies and Busses, and it should be fun. For those of you who are new to the cast, this is a little bit of a departure from our normal sweater design, sweater modification, garment knitting kind of discussions, and I like to just mix it up sometimes. So today is one of those days where we talk about toy knitting and we talk about process and getting rid of things and whether or not we can keep the things that we make and all that kind of fun stuff. So anyway, welcome. And welcome back to all of you who are coming back. Huge shout out to some of you who have donated Ko-fis to the cast. You keep stuff going behind the scenes. Thank you, Celeste and Amanda and Kimberly this time around. I really appreciate your giving to the cast and supporting what I do here. So thank you so much. And a huge thank you to the rest of you for all of your messages and comments. And you guys gave a really warm welcome to that new Hopi sweater last week, which is a Lincoln Newman design. And I totally encourage you all to go out and try some Lincoln Newman patterns because I absolutely love what she's doing. And the 3-color color work is not so bad and it's really fun and it produces some cool results. So thanks to everybody for all of your wonderful comments and messages. I appreciate them. So let's do a little finished object. Then we'll bring Spencer on for a fun segment. And yeah, I think those are going to be the two main things for today. And by the way, Emma Hobbs asked if I would do a rundown of knitting design books. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that in a separate episode, probably coming out next week. So if you're interested in sweater design, garment knitting, and some of the historical and place-based and really in-depth design books, I will do a roundup of those books in a separate, probably not a podcast episode, but a video up on this channel. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and it should be coming out, I hope, next week. All right, so let's jump into finished objects. This, as I said, is Belle the Bunny. She's waving hello to you. Hi. Spencer and I were talking about favorite things to knit, and as you guys know, sweaters are my absolute favorite thing to knit. But a very close second are knit toys, and I love doing blankets, and then probably shawls. I think my least favorite thing to knit are mittens. And I think I just had a couple run-ins with mittens that weren't as warm as I would have liked them to be early in my knitting career. So I think I started with mittens, but I'm not as into them nowadays as I used to be. And I would love to be introduced to mitten patterns that you guys like and that are actually warm, the double knitted mittens, thrummed mittens, all that kind of good stuff. So if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments and I will consider getting back to mittens. But today I want to talk about toy knitting. And for me, toy knitting goes back a long, long way. When I first started knitting, I was kind of enamored with amigurumi, is that how you say it? The crocheted knitted toys. I think there is a world of wonderful crocheted knitted toys or crocheted toys out there. And I was kind of wondering, look, is there a knitted equivalent? And yeah, it turns out there are. So I knit a lot of little toys when I first started knitting, and I went actually into my little kid's room. He's not a little kid anymore. He's going to be going to college next year. His name starts with a Z. His nickname does, so that's why it has a little Z on there. So this was the little chick that I knit for him, and I knit a bunch for family and friends. They're great little ornaments or just kind of have around, and I just think they're really adorable, but I can see that I didn't do the best job with this one. Of course, I was new to it. That's how I sewed on the wings. They work. It works just fine, but it's not the most beautiful thing. But I was enamored with this idea of, creating these kind of beautiful circular objects and giving them personality with some embroidery and little beaks and things like that. So I've always been a long-time toy lover. And one of the first books I ever bought for knitting was this one, Knit Your Own Zombie, which is awesome. And it actually has, as you can see from the back, it's all kind of modular. So you knit the zombie body parts in different ways, and arms and legs and all kinds of little features and clothes for them. And there's even a Frankenstein zombie for those of you who know that I'm into science fiction. So yeah, I knit one of these up for Zach and I can't find it. I know it's in his room somewhere, but I wasn't brave enough to go into the teenager's room and really like dig around. So this was one of the first books I ever bought, and I absolutely I love the idea of knitting things and then giving them personalities and knitting little clothes for them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and then my friend Amy gave me the Spud and Chloe book because she actually did some of the illustrations for Susan B. Anderson's Spud and Chloe book, and she gave me the book, which I have over here, I'll grab. So this is Spud and Chloe on the Farm, and Amy gave me this book because she had an extra copy since she did some of the illustrations for it. And I knit her a Spud the sheep as a thank you. So I guess I've been knitting toys for quite some time, and I find them really fun to make and really a very different kind of knitting. And as those of you who knit toys know, it is a different kind of knitting. There's still increases and decreases and stockinette and garter and all that kind of good stuff, but there's a lot more of the kind of shaping, like making feet and arms and ears, and you can learn a lot about knit stitches, and you can learn a lot about how fabric is going to work and how you can create shapes and contours and three-dimensional objects and all that kind of stuff. So this is Belle the Bunny, and I'm very proud of this guy. It seems kind of like the perfect toy for a grandkid, and this is exactly, she's going to our granddaughter Charbel in the next week or so, because Charbel is about to have another little brother, and I think Charbel needs a new toy and her brother will need a little sweater. So see, there we go. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about Belle the Bunny. Belle the Bunny comes from Knitted Animal Friends. This is a book by Louise Crowther that I picked up quite a while ago because I was absolutely enamored, as you can imagine, with the creatures and their little clothes. And this is Belle the Bunny. She's actually called, I think, Harriet the Hare or something like that in here. Tilly the Hare. Let's see, yeah, she's Tilly the Hare in here. So this is Tilly the Hare. And Tilly the Hare has, little outfits and all kinds of fun things. And I thought she'd be perfect for our little grandbaby because, what you need, I've heard people say this because I posted it on Instagram. People say, you need to have an ear you can grab or a neck or an arm. It's kind of like the perfect Velveteen Rabbit kind of toy that you can drag around, and that's all you need when you're a little kid. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the construction for this guy, and that way you'd know if you're interested in knitting this kind of toy. As I said, I've knit a lot of Susan B. Anderson toys and a lot of little toys like this. And the Susan B. Anderson toys tend to be a little less seamed. They're a little bit more like one piece. So you kind of start at the top, you knit, you do some shaping that creates a kind of false neck, and then you shape the bodies. And the arms and legs, you're often, they're little purl stitches or garter stitch that you kind of pick up around, and then you knit the legs in the round, or the arms or the wings or whatever it is. So her knits seem to be a little bit more seamless, a little bit more good for introductory toy knitting. And this guy is all seamed. So she was built by, you knit the body, the head, the ears, the arms, the legs, all completely separately and actually in the flat. And then you seam them up using mattress stitch. So I'll show you some of the leg. Let's see if the camera can do it. There's the leg seam in the back. Hopefully you can't really see it too much. Same with the arms. The arms have a seam. Let's see if I can find it. You can feel it because it's a little, since you're using mattress stitch, you can feel that it's a little bit thicker in this area right here. And same with the body. The body has a seam. Where is the body seam? The body seam is actually really hard to find. I can feel it. It's right here. You can kind of feel the base of it right there. He has a very nice butt. By the way, bunny butts are quite cute, especially when they're perfectly round like that. So everything's knit flat in pieces, seamed up, and then attached to the actual, like attached together. You kind of build the bunny that way. But as far as shaping goes, there's some really interesting things in this pattern. So like the feet are completely shaped using some really interesting techniques to create this kind of rounded toe and a flat bottom. And you can do a contrast color on the bottom if you want to for a lot of these animals. There's little foxes and puppy dogs with patches on their eyes and things like that. You can see the shaping here in the body. So this is knit bottom up. So you can see the decreases here and along here as well. And then basically you sew the whole thing together. So I am not the best seamstress, as you guys know, but a lot of the sewing for this is Kitchener stitch, which I think works out really well. So you can see the seam for the legs. Let's see if it'll pick it up here. There it is. So you can see the seam for the legs is Kitchenered, and you're basically Kitchenering around both the bottom and the top. And same for the arms, you're Kitchenering to add them. The head, there's not really any instruction for adding the head. So I just went around and basically did a kind of a Kitchener stitch. It's not perfect. And with these particular animals, they're not quite, you can see they got a little flop to them, which I think for a kid's toy is kind of okay because they're going to be flopping around. You could use some stabilizers in there if you wanted to. When I've made other toys and objects and things, sometimes I'll put, depending on who it's for, if it's a child or an adult, you can put like electrical wire in there, and that'll make them kind of bendable in really interesting ways and give them some sturdiness. And what I do with that is just insert a piece of electrical wire in here and make sure that the ends are bound off with electrical tape or something like that so that they're not going to cut into the stuffing and the knitting. But then it creates a real bendable, posable kind of object, which is fun to do. Some people use pencils that way, not necessarily in toys, but in other objects, if you're trying to keep something straight. So it's a little bit like cake making in that you're trying to create a little bit of an infrastructure inside the creature or the object to give it some stability and structure and posability. And with this one, I didn't do any of that because it's for a less than 2-year-old, and I wanted to make sure that it was a very safe object that could be dragged around and that was sewn together sturdily enough that if there's pulling on it or anything like that, it's not going to matter. It's not going to affect the bunny. I also did embroidery on the face rather than using any kind of safety eyes or buttons. I'm not the best embroiderer. I used to embroider a lot more than I have recently. So there are the eyes and there's the little nose. And to do those, I have one stitch here that's a little bit larger than the others, and you can kind of see it down here, I think. This is really, there we go. You can kind of see it down here. So I tied a big knot in my embroidery yarn thread and kind of shoved the needle and that knot up through that larger hole so that the kind of knot for the embroidery that's holding everything in place is kind of embedded somewhere in the head. And that way I could pop the needle out where I wanted it to go, and then the end is buried and secured, and it's not going to pop out because the knot is big enough that it's not going to pop out any average knitted stitch. And you can just secure your embroidery, and then when you're done, you kind of weave the needle through kind of the stuffing, and I did it through a couple of different places in the head, and then just pop it, snip it, and the end just stays embedded in the head. So yeah, maintenance-wise, Spencer's going to talk about maintenance a little bit. It might need a little maintenance as it grows older, but I think overall it's a pretty simple knit, and it's, like I said, rough and tumble. I went around the neck 2 or 3 different times just to make sure that it would stay on very secure. So yeah, I think she's super cute. I'm not going to make her any clothing right now because the last toy I made, Charbel, had a sweater and some other little clothing, so maybe next time. But I am gonna make the little fox for myself, this one, and she has the best green coat and the little feet, and I think she'll be kind of fun to play around with and keep around the yarn room for future potential sweaters and all that kind of good stuff. I really love this guy as well. I think the ram is absolutely adorable. And his hair kind of on his head reminds me a lot of the hair on Spud the sheep from Susan B. Anderson. So yeah, toy knitting, really fun. And I would recommend, if you're gonna start toy knitting, I would absolutely recommend something like Susan B. Anderson's patterns because, like I said, they're a little more seamless and a little less making up at the end. And if you're more advanced in terms of feeling comfortable with Kitchener stitch and mattress stitch and just kind of like working on more 3-dimensional objects that need to be sewn together in various ways, go for it. I mean, I think this book is really nice. The patterns aren't available individually, which is why I bought the book. But basically each animal has some specific patterns that are, specific to a mouse or a fox or a squirrel or a ram or whatever it is. The distinctive features have their own pattern. And then she has a section in the beginning that's all about, the basics. She calls them standard body parts. So things like the bodies, the legs, and the arms are fairly standard. And then at the end, she has a whole section on extra accessories, so shoes and accessories, which are absolutely adorable. You can knit little shoes for these guys, and little French knickers. And if that doesn't win you over, I'm not sure what will. And then she has her technique section at the end, which talks all about making up your animal, how to sew it up, where to sew things to, how to add the embroidery, especially for some of the other animals that need, like the hair on the ram or the snout on the pig or things like that. So she goes through everything that you need with the exception of attaching the head, which is very strange. So the book is cool in that it's very comprehensive, and once you knit one, you kind of have a good sense of how to knit multiple of the animals in the collection. So yeah. So thanks for putting together a cool book there, Louise Crowther. I appreciate it, and I'm enjoying Belle the Bunny until she gets shipped off. I have to go cast on and knit up a sweater for the new grandbaby that's coming, and that one is going to be in the same yarn as this, which is a Sheepy's yarn. This is the Sheepy's regular fingering weight. It's a cotton blend. I think it's a cotton acrylic blend, so easy to wash. And the sweater that I'm going to make is also in the Sheepy's, but it's in the Sheepy's XL, so the larger size, and that again is like a cotton acrylic blend. And I just wanted to make things that would be easy for mom and dad to be able to throw in the washer or spot clean and not have to worry about felting and wool and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, that's the finished object for the week. I promise to have more sweaters in the next episode, and like I said, we're going to do a supplemental episode that has to do with sweater design books, so look for that soon. And now I'm going to turn it over to my second co-host. Sorry, Belle. We gotta turn this over to Spencer. He's coming in to talk about making and giving away, and if we've talked about bunnies, now we have to talk about buses, all that kind of good stuff. So I'll see you back here in a minute. So we have Spencer on the cast today.
I've been brought in as a sort of antidote to some of the issues that have been facing the podcast.
Filler.
I've got 10 minutes to fill.
Bring in.
Can you come in and just talk crap?
Bring in the Spencer.
It's nice to be here.
It's nice to have you on the podcast. So we, as usual, have been having random conversations off camera in our regular lives. Half the time it's like right before we go to sleep or when we wake up, we just start like speaking in paragraphs to each other about all the philosophical issues that are on our minds.
It sounds better than it is.
It doesn't actually. It sounds very bad.
Sounds worse than it is.
Okay, but one of the topics we started on was thinking about letting stuff go. We both
so emotional.
I know, and nobody sing the Frozen song, please, just don't. So we're both crafter, maker people, and we often make things, and then using them or putting them into circulation is sometimes difficult. Maybe more difficult for me than for you. You seem to just be able to do that.
You circulate pretty easily. They just put them in the mail and poof.
That's true. Yeah, I do.
Some of mine are attached to the ground.
They don't mail themselves very well.
Not very well.
So I have a bin of sweaters over there, and people often ask me so you knit so many sweaters, your closet must be full. But number one, I don't keep my sweaters in the closet because I'm afraid of bugs and moths and darkness. So I just keep them in a special bin.
Mainly darkness. When in closets, it's kind of hard to not have darkness.
Exactly. But... So I keep them in the open closet. I'm pointing because they're on that side of the room, right over there in a big bin, plastic bin. And I keep the ones that I wear out, but I really only wear...
How many sweaters have you gotten rid of that you've knitted?
Rid of? That is a horrible, horrible thing to
disposed of. One was disposed of.
One was disposed of because...
One was disposed of. One was given to your mom.
Two.
To
my mom.
One to your dad.
Yeah.
A couple test knits.
Zach.
Three, 4.
So one was given to Zach, which just disappeared. You've got yours. There's, test knits.
But this one, at least you see it around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for me, one of the big issues is if you make something and you never see it again, you don't know if it needs maintenance. Like you don't know if it
He
needs
is
to
a
be.
maintenance man.
You don't know if it needs to be tuned up a little bit.
I can't stand maintenance. Like I've told him before. Like I would drive our car until it just
But
died.
what about sweater
and then,
maintenance?
Like
Sweater
maintenance is important.
Sweater maintenance.
Yeah, I mean
So-
I'll patch stuff for you.
So the stuff you've knitted in it, you just never saw it again.
I
You don't
assume-
know if it needs a little tune-up.
I assume someone else is taking care of it or not, and whatever. If I give it away, it's fine with me. It's like it's off.
Okay.
I don't think about it really anymore.
See, if I give it away, or if someone paid me to make it, I'm immediately worried that it just needs a few little touch-ups over time to keep the gutters straight of the roof on, or the...
What kind of a maker are you?
That kind of
Now I'm
thing.
starting to worry.
And then, but you're not there to do it. So it's decaying over time because you're not there to maintain
He worries
it.
about stuff with me. Like he will like you think I'm bad coming around and like futzing with all your stuff and like but he will seriously be like just follow behind you and just like make sure that
Like your
things
spinning
are-
wheels and stuff.
things are like good.
She uses 3-in-1 oil on the spinning wheels when she really needs to
This
use
stuff?
some grease.
Mm.
So it's just, there's some things, it's just...
This was found in his shop and now I use it on the spinning wheel.
And it's just not the right stuff.
I know.
But anyway, we were going to talk about how it's hard to get rid of stuff.
Well, just like what it's like. 'Cause, like I don't use a lot of my sweaters. They really do sit in the bin a lot. And I think about when I was asked, I think it was Instagram, someone asked like, so you must have a closet full of sweaters. And I'm like, no, I just have a bin full of sweaters. But I use them for,
Kind of the same thing.
yeah,
The
but
bin's closet size.
But I use them for samples. Like if I'm going to do tutorials or I figure for later teaching classes or,
Yeah.
and I think to myself, well, if this sweater represents like a certain kind of technique and I don't want to then wear it out and not be able to use it for the videos.
You want to hang on to it.
That's really kind of strange. Because then I have other sweaters that I wear all the time, every
Well,
day.
to be fair, some of the sweaters you've knitted, they didn't turn out like perfectly for you to wear because they were not quite your style or something.
Yeah, or they need
But
a
you wanted
little
to knit 'em.
mod, or or
Yeah.
they're not my style, but I wanted to knit
You
them.
really
I
wanted
wanted
to
to
knit 'em.
help somebody out with a test
Yeah.
knit or a sample knit
Yeah.
or
Now that
Yeah.
sounds like the prison bus. So,
which is sadly moved on from our lives.
So,
Let me wipe my tear away.
that's so wrong. That's so wrong. So, you probably,
You didn't have to live with
you
the
probably don't
prison
know
bus.
this, but, I had this little bus, this little short bus, and I kind of fixed
40
it up
feet.
over like
It
5 years.
blocked
And we finally got
windows
rid
in
of
our
it.
house.
But it's not a big deal that I got rid of it. Like, I'm not lamenting the fact all that much, like not all day long.
You had a few days
I had some feelings.
of feelings,
But anyway,
and it's okay.
what I was trying to say though
Did-
is that it's largely not my style. Like having a big bus is not really one of my goals. I do have a goal to own like a dozen trucks and a few vans and a
The
few
dump truck in our front
couple
yard.
more tractors. Like that has got to stay. I love that stuff.
Right. For
But-
which he'll need to build new barns
Yeah,
and
all
things
that
to
stuff.
store
yeah.
them.
So anyway, like it's easier to get rid of something if it's not your style.
That's true. Yeah, if it's like there's something about it that's not like
You really didn't like the bus.
I love that. I loved
She
his
was in
work
the bus,
on the bus.
about 4 times.
I loved his work on the bus. Like the fact that he would really throw himself
Okay,
into
that's
it. He got
nice.
into like learning new techniques and
All that
skills
stuff.
and like
but
craftsmanship.
But the
and-
bus, and when it was out in the driveway and stuff.
when it was in our little house driveway, it was uncool. And
Even
then
here.
my fear really was always that you'd want to take it on the road with us, like that we'd all have to pile in and
That
we'd,
was
like,
the
take a road
plan.
trip.
We were going to go to yarn shops and stuff.
And I just couldn't bring myself
She wanted
to.
to go to yarn
Plus, there was
shops.
nowhere to sit on the bus except for him. There was no actual seat on the
lay
bus
in
for
the,
anyone
lay in the
else.
bed.
Yeah, as the bus is like.
Or just follow along behind on like a motorcycle.
Anyway,
Sit on the roof deck.
he had mixed feelings about passing it on
It's
to
good
the
that it
next
went.
person.
Brought in a little bit of cash too.
That's good. You see, that's all right.
That's good.
That's good.
You sell the sweaters?
No, I've never sold a sweater.
Never sold a sweater.
No, I probably should though.
I don't know. I think sweaters, like the price of a sweater is never going to be worth what you put into it labor-wise.
No, but I love giving them to people. Like I made
Yeah.
my dad one, I made you one, Zach, and then my mom's sweater,
And
and
the
then
test knits.
all the test
Gave
knits,
those away.
sample knits. Yeah. So I mean, those are. I don't find it hard to get rid of knitting, like to pass knitting on to people. There are very few
Yeah.
pieces of knitting that when I finish,
That's
I'm just
cool.
like, oh my god, I need that. That's like they're the 3 sweaters that I wear all the time, and I just knit the bunny for our
That's
little grandbaby,
because-
and that's like gonna go out the door. and
That's because
good.
you're a food processor knitter. Remember that term?
What is this?
Food processor knitter.
Says
You guys
food
use that
process.
term? Food processor knitter. It's like you gotta blend it up.
I've heard of process knitting. But not food processor
Well,
knitting.
in the literature I consult, it's called food process knitting, and
Do tell. Blend it up.
put it in through the
See
top.
what happens. No, I don't think either of us are product. Is that what it is? Process and product. You're not a product, but you are.
I like the new truck.
Yeah. See,
I have a new truck. It's only new because it's newer than the other ones. It's the newest truck on the
It
premises.
is the newest truck on the premises. Okay,
And I'm attached to it.
and it's
boy.
gorgeous because he just finished it, and it's like all shiny and new, and like all just well. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no scratches. There's no dents. There's nothing.
There's a lot wrong with it.
But it's really pretty.
It's good.
Right
I'm
now.
attached to it. I'll admit it.
Yeah, but that's the thing of like some of the sweaters that I make. Like I don't want to wear them in part because I don't want to like have them go away.
You know what you're attached
That's
to?
really messed up. This
All
is
right.
like an actual
All right, so
like
we're doing a little
counseling
therapy
session
here.
here. Okay.
Melissa is what she's really attached to, and she can never get rid of. Her stash.
This is
like
true.
the actual yarn, the actual bin of dyed stuff.
It's true. I have the hand. That's the other
from
thing.
around the world, hand
yeah,
spin.
yeah. The little suit. I call it a collection. Okay, we don't need to call it a stash.
like an
It's kind of
archive,
like- it is an
museum.
archive. It's a collection of like places and people
Hoard.
and a hoard. Let's go to your shop and talk about the hoard. But that's true. I have certain yarns that I don't want to knit with because
You
they're
enjoy
just
it.
like they
Yeah.
just represent. Like I have a whole bin of Megan's old crow art yarns, and I just love them in the skein. Like I'm
They're
collecting
pretty.
them. They're just beautiful
They're
as
pretty.
objects. So I've knit with a couple of them, but I don't want to like
You
knit
don't
them all
have to.
up. And my hand spun's the same way. Like I spin it and then I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like such a unique object. I don't want to use it up because then it's gone
Hmm.
in my mind.
You need some work.
yeah.
But you guys have a hobby,
Therapy.
this whole knitting thing, spinning, knitting.
Yeah.
You have a hobby where mainly there's a lot of giving and sharing. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I see a lot of that at least
Yeah.
with your friends and everything.
Yeah, and if I can't use something like Beth gave me an extra Swift the other day to take with me to New York, and you know she's given me some other like fiber and stuff. So we have like a little exchange. Like she gave me some needles, and I
Yeah.
gave her like some extra
And
fiber.
it's all
that I didn't
good
have,
in
so
the
it's
end.
like,
and, yeah.
and then she just spun up the fiber, so she used it in ways that like
She used that stuff already?
yeah, she already spun it up. And it's beautiful, like the hand spun's beautiful. So there is a little bit of like I feel more comfortable giving it to someone else to
Yeah.
use.
Yeah, yeah.
Even a sweater. It's kind of like I give it to you, you wear it, and I know you crawl into the truck with this thing on and like
This is a construction sweater. It's actually a class of sweaters. You'll see it on Ravelry if you
Yeah.
look for construction
exactly.
knitwear. You'll
Yeah.
find
And
things
I
like
just
this.
figure it's gonna get used, and I'll need to patch it and all that stuff.
It got a bunch of metal shavings in it, but I just pulled them out with a magnet.
Just
so.
don't go in like an MRI machine.
With the sweater on? No, that's good. I'm
Oh
good.
God, with the metal shavings, I worry about the metal.
So you were okay seeing the bus go. I can't
No.
believe it. Can't-
I was
all
so
these
sad.
years, all these years,
Years.
I was
That's
keeping
the
it
key word.
because I thought she wanted it.
Years. But see, the thing with Spencer, and probably with me too, is that like as I go through my stash and like use up
Unbelievable.
yarn to make sweaters or blankets or whatever, just like you went through, finished the bus,
Few
get
years
rid of
ago.
it, then something new takes its place.
Yeah, a couple
so
things.
that's the thing. You get rid of
Couple
one
things.
thing and like 3 or 4 things come back
Look at
in.
the money burn a hole in your pocket.
So what's next? A van?
Yeah. You want to go in on a van?
No.
You buy like 20%?
No.
I think I'm getting a van.
No.
The van's coming.
Yeah.
Next episode.
So we'd love to know what you guys think about all this stuff. Like, do you have stuff that you can't get rid of for different reasons? I guess this is almost like, does it bring you joy? Remember that whole like
Oh,
Marie
yeah.
Kondo thing? Like you're supposed to go through your yarn or your stuff and like see if it brings you joy. Like, do you guys think about all that stuff? And then there's my friend was doing Swedish death cleaning. Have you heard about
the hell
this?
is that?
Where like you go through all your stuff ahead of time so that no one else has to deal with it once
Oh
you're
yeah,
dead.
that's responsible.
Yeah.
I've been doing some of that.
There you go. So you've been doing Swedish death
Yeah,
cleaning.
just been burning old papers and stuff.
Right on. So we'd love to know what you guys think about all this. Are you doing Swedish
It's like a
death cleaning?
process issue,
Yeah.
a creative arts issue or whatever.
Yeah, it is. Because I don't know, I enjoy I would gladly process all of this stuff with the exception of a few skeins that I'd want to
A few
save.
hundred. Yeah, you would.
And then I'd just start over and get new,
Just keep
new
getting
stuff.
new stuff, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But I know there are some people out there who are just like, they don't like the knitting or the spinning or the building because they want the final thing. Like they don't enjoy they want to speed through it.
Yeah, they want
so
the
that they
thing,
can get
yeah.
the thing in the end.
Yeah.
So
It's different.
what do you guys
different
think?
perspective.
Let us know. We'd love to hear in the comments. Thanks for coming on the cast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the cast. It's always fun to, learn the truth.
I love the prison bus. See, look there, I said it on camera. It must be true.
Just... Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, see you next time.
See ya.
Well, I guess I'll see you in a few minutes. But
Probably.
yeah, maybe. In the pandemic, we live in the same house, so I guess I'll probably see you.
Later.
Well, I hope you enjoyed having Spencer on the cast. I always do, and it seems like you guys all find some good humor in our banter, so I hope that raised the happiness meter of your weekend. Belle and I wanted to say a happy goodbye to you until we meet again in a couple of weeks, and yeah, I hope your knitting brings you a little bit of joy in all of the craziness, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.